Have you ever just stopped and thought about what your body is doing right this second without you even telling it to? It's wild. Every moment, it's running a whole series of essential maintenance jobs just to keep you, well, you. In this explainer, we're going to dive into the 4 fundamental tasks that every single living thing has to do all the time just to exist. So let's start with a really basic question. How do we even tell if something is alive? I mean, a dog that's running around, obviously alive, but a sleeping dog. Still alive, of course, you can see it breathing. But what about a plant? It's not really moving in a way we can see. It turns out the most important signs of life are the ones that are completely invisible to us. Yeah, the real secret to what makes something alive isn't what we see on the outside. It's all happening at the molecular level. You see, the universe has this natural tendency to, well, to fall apart. It leans towards chaos and breakdown. And life? Life is the ultimate rebellion against that. It's a constant, invisible war being fought by molecules to repair damage and maintain order. And this constant battle for maintenance is what biologists call life processes. Honestly, you can just think of it as a 24/7 job that never, ever stops, not even for a second when you're sleeping. These processes are what keep an organism from literally breaking down. And just like any tough job, it needs a ton of energy. So that's the big question, right? Where does all that energy come from? Well, it has to come from the outside world. And that brings us to the very first essential job of life, nutrition. This is all about getting the fuel you need to power all that endless maintenance and repair. Now, when it comes to getting food, life basically came up with 2 main strategies. On one side, you have the autotrophs, the self-feeders like plants. These guys are the ultimate do-it-yourselfers, making their own food from super simple stuff like carbon dioxide and water. And then there's the rest of us, the heterotrophs, or other feeders. We kind of take a shortcut and just get our energy by eating other living things. For plants, the whole magic show is called photosynthesis, and it's this incredible 3-step process. First, they have this special pigment called chlorophyll that acts like a bunch of tiny solar panels, soaking up sunlight. Second, the plant takes that light energy and converts it into a usable chemical form. And finally, it uses that chemical energy to build carbohydrates. It's basically packing its own lunch to use for fuel whenever it needs it. For us heterotrophs, it's a completely different game. Our nutrition is more like a demolition project. It's all about breaking down complex food. The whole thing kicks off in your mouth, where teeth crush everything up and saliva starts dissolving starches. From there, your stomach brings in the heavy machinery, powerful acid and enzymes to really go to work on proteins. And finally, the small intestine finishes the job, breaking everything down into molecules that are small enough for our body to actually absorb. So, getting the fuel is just step 1. It doesn't matter if we made it ourselves or ate it. Every single cell in our body now needs a way to unlock the energy that's locked up inside that fuel. And this brings us to the second essential job of life, respiration. And what's amazing is that it doesn't matter if you're a single yeast cell or a massive blue whale. The process of releasing that energy starts with this exact same chemical step. Inside the cytoplasm of a cell, a glucose molecule is literally split in half, creating 2 smaller molecules called pyruvate. You can think of this as the universal starting gun for energy production in all of life. It's pretty cool. Okay, so after that first split, life comes to a fork in the road. And the choice of which path to take all comes down to one thing: oxygen. The first path, aerobic respiration, uses oxygen to completely dismantle that pyruvate, and in doing so, it releases a huge amount of energy. The second path, anaerobic respiration, doesn't need any oxygen. It's way faster, but it's also way less efficient. It just gets a little bit of energy out and creates byproducts, like that lactic acid that makes your muscles burn when you're working out hard. And just how important is oxygen for us? Well, to get as much of it as we possibly can, the tiny little air sacs in our lungs, called the alveoli, have an absolutely massive surface area. If you could somehow take them all out and spread them flat, they would cover about 80 square meters. That is a huge area dedicated to one single job: grabbing oxygen so we can release energy efficiently. All right, so we've got our fuel, and we know how to unlock its energy. But in a big, complex creature with trillions of cells, how do you actually get that fuel and oxygen to every single one of them? And how do you clear out their waste? Well, you need a delivery service. This is our third big job: transportation. Think about it. If you're just a single cell, life's pretty simple. Nutrients can just kind of drift in from the outside. But what about us? Most of our cells are buried deep inside our bodies.
If we had to rely on simple diffusion to get oxygen from our lungs all the way to our toes, it would take something like 3 years. Clearly, we needed a much, much faster delivery system.
And that something faster is, of course, our circulatory system, an absolutely incredible piece of biological engineering. It's got 3 key parts: a super powerful pump, the heart; a transport liquid, the blood, which uses a special protein called hemoglobin to latch onto oxygen; and a huge network of vessels that acts like a superhighway to every single cell in your body. It's a fantastic system for sure, but it's not the only way to do it. So how does a plant, which can be absolutely enormous, handle its transportation? It needs to get water from deep in the soil all the way up to its highest leaves, and it doesn't have a pump. So how does it solve the exact same problem? Well, the plant's solution is this brilliant dual plumbing system. First, you've got the xylem. That's a one-way street just for water and minerals going up. It basically works like a giant straw. As water evaporates from the leaves, it creates this powerful suction that just pulls more water all the way up from the roots. Then you've got the phloem. That's a two-way street that delivers the sugary food made in the leaves to every other part of the plant that needs it. And that process actually requires energy. Okay, so all of this work, making energy, using it, building new things, it inevitably creates waste. Some of that waste is just useless, but some of it is straight up toxic if it's allowed to build up. And this brings us to our 4th and final essential job, excretion, or as I like to call it, taking out the metabolic trash. And you guessed it, different life forms have come up with totally different strategies for this too. A single cell can just let its waste drift away. We humans have this incredibly sophisticated system built around our kidneys, which filter out nasty nitrogen-based wastes like urea from our blood to create urine. And plants, they have their own clever tricks, like breathing out oxygen and extra water, or storing waste in leaves that are going to fall off anyway, or sealing it away as resins and gums. The sheer efficiency of our kidneys is just, it's mind-boggling. Every single day, they filter about 180 liters of fluid from your blood. That is a huge amount, but they are absolute masters of recycling. They selectively reabsorb almost all of the water and other useful stuff back into the body. So in the end, only 1 liter or 2 of concentrated waste actually leaves your body. In this system, almost nothing useful gets thrown away. So there you have it, the 4 interconnected jobs that, together, really define the process of being alive. You've got nutrition to bring in the fuel, respiration to unlock its energy, transportation to deliver all the supplies and clear out the clutter, and excretion to get rid of the really harmful byproducts for good. Right now, as you're sitting here, all 4 of these jobs are being performed by trillions of your cells, all at once. It's this silent, perfectly coordinated symphony, all just to fight back against the natural forces of chaos. It makes you realize that life isn't really a state of being, is it? It's a continuous, energy-hungry process. Which kind of leaves you with one last question to think about. If being alive is a constant act of maintenance, what happens in that single second we stop?